Today is July 22, International Brain Day or Neuroscience Day. A lot of people don't know much about the brain. Like David Eagleman, the author of The Brain, said, it might be because we're so trapped in our own reality, we're so trapped inside our brains actually, that we don't really notice anything wonderful about it. For us, seeing colors in the world, noticing that our memories are almost perfect, it's just a normal thing. But actually, there's a lot that goes on beneath the surface, beneath the head, when you, for example, pick up a cup of coffee. It might seem very easy to pick up a cup of coffee, but what actually goes on in the neural circuits during that time, and considering how quickly the neurons and the synapses process information, it's quite mind-blowing to do something as simple as that. Oliver Sacks has written a famous book called Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. In the book, he describes a variety of case studies dealing with neurological conditions. It consists of 4 parts. The first part is about losses or neurological deficits, in which patients lose a certain ability or a certain function that is necessary to do something, like, for example, amnesia. It is the loss of memory or the loss of the ability to create new memories. And in the second part, he talks about excesses, enhancement of normal functions. It can be quite a different conditions, can be quite a lot of conditions. Tourette's is an example. Tourette's is a condition where a person has constant tics, and they are mostly involuntary. The person isn't consciously doing them. It might be random physical motions or words in certain words that the person doesn't really want to use, but it happens involuntarily. The third part deals with transports or reminiscences, which is, due to certain neurological conditions, the patient is transported to a world which was previously inaccessible, the world being inside the brain, of course. It is described in musical hallucinations of Mrs. O.C., who, due to a tremor, was able to recall Irish songs from her childhood, which previously she could not remember a thing about. So these are the experiences, including reminiscences or transports, and the fourth part is about the idiot savants, or what you call savant syndrome nowadays. It's about the retardates, people whose world is simple. Its title is The World of the Simple, because that is what they are. Oliver Sacks, through his case studies, we can actually understand a lot about these patients, and it helps us to connect with these patients on a more deeper level, because in the case studies show us that they're humans just like us. Even though they may lead certain different lives because of their conditions, but despite the differences, they're just as human as us, even if people tend to not see them that way. So it's really a beautiful book. And as Oliver Sacks rightly said, today's neurology is concerned much with the technical aspects of the brain, tending to look upon it as a sort of computer, even though they deny it. So Oliver Sacks here has used a beautiful human method of treatment, which actually takes into account the feelings of the person, something deeper beneath the brain, something deeper besides functions and the synapses and the connections that occur in the brain. Because as a human, the brain is not just a computer, it's something living. It's much more complex than a computer. So this analogy of comparing a brain to a computer is actually very wrong. So I think his book beautifully touches upon that point, the humanness of the brain and the humanity that should be in neurology. I think it's a beautiful book. And another book that I've been reading recently is Phantoms in the Brain by V.S. Ramachandran. It's also a great book. It deals with specific conditions and V.S. Ramchandran's own experiences regarding the patients, mostly phantom limb patients who have sort of phantom limb. It's called a phantom limb or a ghost limb. When amputees, when they lose their arm or leg in an accident, they feel that it's still there, that leg. It's called a phantom leg or arm. It's called a phantom limb. So this limb is actually capable of feeling pain. And that might prove a problem to most people, because what can you do to treat a phantom limb? You can't do anything because essentially it's not there. But the patient still feels it. They feel the pain. And so people often think it's due to the innervated structures in the stump, above the stump, because it has been cut off, the nerves have been cut off, so they might be infected, and so that is why they feel pain. But clearly this is not the cause, because even after surgery, patients still continue to feel a phantom pain, and why they feel this is not really known. Like a lot of conditions in neuroscience, the causes are not known, but still we can do simple things to alleviate their pain, like how V.S. Ramchandran used the mirror box technique to make the patients feel better. He used a simple mirror, he used a simple black box and a mirror, and so when the patient inserted their arm inside it, the paralyzed limb or the phantom limb, it was reversed. They could see their normal or their good hand in place of the amputated hand, so they felt that they had an arm there even though they did not. It's because of the mirror. So if someone massaged the good arm, they actually saw that their phantom arm was being massaged, so it actually helped lessen the pain. So methods like this, they're very low cost, but still they're effective because they're based on a scientific basis. They help the patients feel better, but still we have a lot to discover about different neurological conditions of the brain. I'm not finished with the book yet, but it's certainly an interesting read, and V.S. Ramchandran is much like Sherlock Holmes. For anyone interested, for the Sherlock Holmes fans, he often quotes Sherlock Holmes, which is what initially made me appreciate him much more, because I am a Sherlock Holmes fan myself. And I think he rightly says that medicine is much like being a sleuth. It's like being a detective, because often these conditions, they don't have any obvious clue, or you don't know what's actually going on. So you have to be a detective and you have to find out the cause. You have to find out what it is that is causing this particular condition or disease. Another book I read is The Brain by David Eagleman. It's very much an introductory book to the brain. It gives you an introduction to different parts of the brain. It's a very good book for someone who's just getting into neuroscience and the brain. It's easy to understand, and it's essential in the way that it creates that sense of wonder, that sense of feeling for the brain, because it tells you how incredible the brain is and how most people don't really notice that. It's definitely a great book, and it definitely has the facts too. So it's the first book that got me into neuroscience, so I can definitely vouch for that. It's a nice one. And another one that I read was The 1,000 Brain Theory by Jeff Hawkins. It's actually not a book about the brain per se, but it's a book about his theory on how the brain works regarding the cortical column and the neocortex. It's basically a general theory for how the brain works, because there are many problems in neuroscience, especially how the brain actually learns, how it does everything, how the neurons are able to function, and how the connected activity of all these neurons create the sense of reality that we live in, or create the world we live in. It's not really known how that works. So the book describes this theory. It says that there are certain columns, cortical columns, that store the reference frames for each of the things we do. Like it stores reference frames for a house, reference frames. and even reference frames for higher cortical activity like language and mathematics. So, cortical columns, these are the units of the nervous system. He says so in his theory. Even though it's not scientifically proven, I think it's a very nice theory. And I was inspired by his story and how he became interested in neuroscience after reading Francis Crick's essay titled Think About the Brain. He quit his job as an electrical engineer because the essay inspired him so much he wanted to know how the brain actually worked. And one quote of his that I agree with completely is that he says that to be able to build truly intelligent machines, first we must understand how our own brain works. And I think it's very true because machines, we have to know what actually goes on in our brain, because how can we think of building intelligent machines, truly intelligent machines that can do anything, that can learn anything wherever they're put and whenever they're put, unless we understand how our own brain works, which we're so far off from understanding in the present. So it's definitely an interesting book. It's nice, it's written in a research sort of way, and it's nice to get you into neuroscience. These are all the books I've read so far. I read many more once. I read a lot of articles, read a few papers on neuroscience. Well, the paper part is quite hard because it's about research and you have to be acquainted with a particular section of the brain that they're researching on to fully understand what the paper is saying. A good website is Brain Facts. Its headquarters is in USA, and they released a book called Brain Facts. It's released by the Journal of the Society of Neuroscience. It's a very nice book. It includes basic facts of the brain, which is necessary if you want to delve deeper into the brain and understand more about it. So I definitely recommend that as well. And these are the few things that will get you interested in neuroscience. There are many more things out in the internet, out in the libraries near you, out in the world, inside our own heads to discover. And so this is the organ that makes us, well, us. Because without it, we wouldn't exist actually. I've thought about that a lot. Brain, it's the seat of consciousness, the center of intelligence, because people might say the body is important. It definitely is important, but what we actually call us, what we call you and me, it lies inside this 3-pound organ because it's where our thoughts and emotions are stored. An example for how the brain influences our personality and how it influences our perception is an example, example given in The Brain by David Eagleman. A young man once, he woke up in the morning and he shot his mother and his wife, and then he went on to the top of the tower. He climbed on the top of the tower and he shot at the people below. And after that he shot himself and he left a note. And when the police read the note, it was written that I don't feel like myself these days. I am supposed to be an average intelligent man with a good job in banking, but recently I've started having these strange thoughts. I would like you to conduct an autopsy to see what's really going inside my head. So they did, and they found a tumor and pressing against the amygdala, tumor the size of a nickel, pressing against the amygdala. The amygdala is a part of the brain that's important in controlling fear and aggression, and it's also related to trauma. It basically governs our flight or fight response. And it's responsible for many other functions as well, but fear and aggression are its main functions. So this tumor was pressing against the amygdala, and that is what caused this seemingly intelligent man to act this way, this unusual ways. So this is an example of how even a small damage to the brain can completely alter even our lives and the lives of those around us. So we may think we're in control, but actually most of the time we aren't. But this is the reality. This is our brain, and we have to learn more about it because neuroscience is a path for the future. It is an incredibly growing field in this current time, and research in neuroscience is very important, I think, in this current time, because when you learn more about the brain, when you learn about its mechanisms, you learn more about yourself at the same time. You learn how you think, you learn how you do things certain ways, you learn why you have certain beliefs. And I think this is very important as a development of a person, and that's why the Society of Neuroscience is trying to introduce the basics of neuroscience as a curriculum in high schools, because it's necessary to teach children about this. They have to know about their brain. And I think it's quite silly that we celebrate Moon Day but not Brain Day, because Brain Day is not really known around the world. Well, July 21, one day before July 22, which is Brain Day, is Moon Day. And almost everyone knows about that in schools, but no one really cares about the organ that actually is responsible or actually helps us celebrate Moon Day. I think that's quite irony, and we should recognize that. And so, on this Brain Day, I hope that you'll take some time to read a little about the brain. You don't have to spend too much time about it. There's a good channel on YouTube, Neuroscientifically Challenged, or 2-Minute Neuroscience. It explains topics of neuroscience in just 2 minutes. It explains very well. It's a professor. He is a professor at the Pennsylvania University, and I think he explains topics very well. It can help you get interested in neuroscience. But actually there are tons of things that will get you interested in neuroscience, and it's a broad field. It has many subdivisions, and so you can go into any field that you want, any interest. Maybe you can be interested in diseases, maybe you are interested in languages or memory, or the higher functions, other higher functions like emotion. Cognitive neuroscience is a good field for that. Or maybe you're interested in the neurobiology of neurons and synapses and the stuff that the brain is made of. You can go into any field you want, and understanding how the brain works is crucial. I think, in my personal opinion, is crucial for our development as a human race. And so I hope on this Brain Day in 2025, we'll take some time out of our busy lives to learn more about this organ that makes us us.